Hi, Facebook friends. Helen Arcantu here, CEO of the YWCA of Northern New Jersey. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I am so happy to be with you today. If you're in Northern New Jersey, it is a sunny summer day. And if you're a YW regular, you know that Thursdays are when we share the mic now with Black women in our community to share their stories. And I'm so excited about today's show. I know I say that every time because I always excited because, I find people. But so today's guest, I can personally attest to the talent that she brings to the world because my family has been enjoying her work for some time, and I was been looking forward to for some time to bring her here so that you could all meet her. She has been busy though, and we're going to learn about why, and the best kind of busy that there is. So I am so grateful today that we have Jaleesa Al-Kassem join us. Welcome, Jaleesa.
Hi, thank you.
So Jaleesa is a local hometown celebrity here in Northern New Jersey for sure, and nationally because of where she's ended up. But she started she was born and raised in Spanish Harlem, New York City. She grew up with food being the center of attention for her, and being from New York City, which is obviously one of the food capitals of the world. She did a medical internship in high school. Thank God you didn't keep on that path for the rest of us. But she did a medical internship in high school, and she decided that after doing that was not where she wanted to focus her efforts, but that she wanted to focus her efforts not on medicine, but on baking and pastry arts. And that led her to the prestigious Culinary Institute of America in Hyde Park, New York. It was there that Jaleesa discovered her passion and her talent for custom special occasion cakes. She traveled internationally through France, through Italy, through England, through Ireland to feed her hunger for education and culture through cuisine, anthropology, and dessert, which is definitely where I spend a lot of my brain cells when I'm thinking about food. After graduating school and marrying, and the birth of her first child, she started her first business, which was called Sweet Memories by Jaleesa. And in November 2020, she and her husband opened their very first storefront bakery, which Jaleesa, timing of
Perfect timing.
Yeah. Yes, we'll talk
Perfect
about
timing.
perfect, right?
Right. Perfect
their
timing.
First storefront bakery, which is Mo and J Pastry, which is in Little Falls, New Jersey. Right? Great location too. Wonderful location. Shortly after the birth of her second child in 2021, she became an award-winning pastry chef as she went on to compete in the Food Network's Spring Baking Championship, and she won with her jaw-dropping flavors and intricate cake design skills. So there is so much for us to talk about, and it is all sweet, folks. It is all sweet conversation today. Welcome, Jaleesa.
Hi. Can you hear me?
I hear you perfectly.
I don't know why I feel like your mic kind of I don't know, it sounds a little distorted. I don't know if it's on my end.
Well, we'll check with our tech behind the scenes how we're doing with the mic, and if there's a problem, she'll let us know. I hear you fine.
Okay.
But with that, it sounds like it's all good. It sounds like Jaleesa, I don't even know. I know that the tendency is going to want to start the big thing about the Food Network, but before we get there, when you think back to your medical internship in high school and you think to where you are today, we work with a lot of young women at the YW, and I love that part of your story because I really think it reminds us why it's so important for youth to do internships and to have mentors and to get out there and try things, because your path could have been very, very different.
Yes.
It could have been very different. So can you take us back to that high school mind of yours? And
my God.
That was, and I don't want to say it was a long time ago, because it wasn't that long, right?
Oh no, it was like 4 years ago,
just recently, right? But but it really does show that, you had the inkling at that stage of your life about
Mhm.
what could have been ahead for you. And I just love to lift that up for young women to hear you talk about that for a minute before we jump into other aspects of your story.
Yeah. So what happened was, I went to a medical-based high school in New York City. It was an all-girls Catholic school, still there. And I really thought I wanted to become a surgeon. I wanted to become a plastic surgeon, to be exact. I really thought that this was going to be my path. So I purposely applied to high schools that had a focus on medicine. And the way my high school worked, they had an internship in your junior year, where every Friday you go to the hospital instead of going to the classes, and you will have an internship all day, and then you report back on the weekend. You write a report up and you bring it in for Monday. So my internship was in a hospital that I was actually born in, so that was pretty cool. But it was not in surgery. I was in a complete different unit, and I think maybe that might have played a role. But the point is, I remember doing my internship, and it's for the whole year, the whole year in school. And I remember doing my internship, and it wasn't even halfway through that I was like, this is not for me. Like, it was just something about, I think I romanticized the idea more of being a surgeon, or, just being this doctor. And then when I actually saw a taste of it, even though I wasn't in the surgeon ward, just still in the field of medicine, seeing what it was like first hands on, what the nurses were doing, how the patients were, and knowing what you have to deal with every day, I just felt like I didn't want to do that. There's a lot of stuff that's not really, I think, talked about a lot when you're trying to go into medicine. Everyone sees more of the positives out of it, which is most important, but there's also a backside to it. And the backside was something that I didn't really personally want to deal with every single day. And so I was like, okay, well, now what do I do? It's junior year. Okay, so next year is senior year. What are we going to do for colleges? What are we going to do? My whole career path is changing. And I didn't know what I wanted to do, because I thought I wanted to go into medicine. So, upon talking to my friends and family, they all kept telling me, do what you love, the whole cliche. But, only thing I kept thinking was, well, I really like baking. But I kind of felt like there wasn't a career into that. I felt like there wasn't any money into it, because I thought at that time that this industry was all about who you knew. And my family doesn't know anyone. I don't know anyone. We live in this poor neighborhood. Like, we don't have any, family in the industry, like nothing. So I kept thinking it would be a really a hard struggle and an uphill battle for me to get anywhere in the industry to make any kind of money. So I just didn't think I could go into food. But then everyone kept telling me, just do what you love, trust me, to pay off, do your passion. Okay, fine. So I applied to culinary school, and I went to CIA, and it was the greatest decision I ever made. I did the 4-year program, I graduated, and now it shows that it paid off. But it was scary at first, because as I started going to culinary school, I kind of went there in the feeling of like not really knowing what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to do pastry, but what exactly? And every class that we had, I kept seeing my classmates find their niche and find what they loved and find what they were passionate about. And I couldn't find mine yet. And I was freaking out. But it wasn't until I got to the cake decorating class that I felt like home. And I was like, ooh,
Yeah.
this is it. Like, I like this part. So, yeah, so it took going through multiple classes, of course, but that was part of the curriculum. That was part of the path to get there. But yeah, then I went to culinary school, and eventually I met my husband, and we have our store now. But yeah, I can't believe it, because I almost went to medical school. My mom has this joke where she's like, the common denominator between medicine and food or knives, because I want to be a surgeon.
I love that. I love that.
Jokes, like, don't say that.
Well, I really appreciate you taking a moment to start there and share that part of your story, because I for twofold. One, because as parents, and I'm a parent of 9-year-old twins. As parents, it's so important that we listen to our kids when they say what they want, because sometimes,
Right.
especially with something like medicine, like parents are probably, so many parents are so thrilled, right? That
Right, of course.
that kids have decided on a path. And when they deviate, and sometimes we as parents get hooked into kind of a vision of what we want our kids to be.
Yeah.
But if your mother, and your family didn't embrace, the change, that you made, which was pretty big considering you picked a high
Right.
school that was focused specifically on
Yes.
medicine, you may not be here today. And you
Right.
may be in, and not that every career doesn't have challenges, ups and downs that comes with it, but you may be very unhappy making a lot of money doing something that, was not your calling.
Right.
So I appreciate you sharing that, and it's such a message to those of any, those watching, about really, like, listening to your kids and helping support, their trajectory and paths, and exposing them to so much, so that they can figure it out, and also having patience with ourselves, because you just really shared, even once you got to where you wanted to be, it still took you a little bit of time to find your,
Yes.
that spot, that sweet spot, no pun intended. Um, but
I think there's
here
always
you
that
are.
pressure, of
Yeah,
knowing what you want to do at a very young age. I mean, I honestly always felt like when you go to college, it's like 18 years old. It's like, how do you know at 18 when you literally, the life expectancy is like 80? It's like, how are you supposed to know at 18 what you want to do for the rest of your life? It's a lot of pressure, I always
yeah,
felt, and I'm like, it's okay if you switch. Or how many times did I go to culinary school and a lot of the students there were career changers? They were lawyers,
yeah,
they were teachers, they were whatever, and now they're switching to do something they're more passionate about. It's like, it happens. It's okay if you deviate or if you choose a different path. I think I was lucky to find it that young, honestly, at
yes.
17, 16. But some people would think that I was kind of late to figure it out. So, it depends on perspective. But yeah, I think I was lucky to figure it out at 16, 17, and I still happen to stick with it now. And I'm still in the food industry, but yeah, I think a lot of pressure for younger people to figure out what they want to do at such a young age, especially in high school. You're applying for all these colleges, you want to get in, and it's a lot of pressure.
And you shared kind of in your story there, that along the way of this journey, you met your husband, you added, one and then two children on
Yeah.
top of birthing the business, or businesses that kind of built into each other. So many of the women that we work with are, also in a place and space where they have a dream, and they think that they are waiting for the right time, to make it
Yes.
happen. And
Yes.
I think the other thing I love about your story, that I've been like fangirling, watching from the sidelines, and while eating your cookies and cakes and eclairs while I do it. But one of the things I really love about your story is that, you're just like life in motion.
Mhm.
You just were kind of rolling through it all. Kind of, the colors of your piece of art that you were creating kept changing and adding and
Kept
growing.
adapting.
Um, can you talk about, kind of that process of that evolution, because that's stressful, and again, a lot of people are like waiting for the right time, but you just, and obviously I don't know you personally, so I don't know what else went on for you during that time. I'm sure it wasn't as seamless as it looks like, to those of us on the outside or hearing your story, but it would be great to hear a little bit about your experience of that snowball.
Right. It's very interesting you bring that up. So growing up, my temperament was I'm very type A. I do not like chaos. I do not like snowballs. I do not like, I like to have everything lined up, know what's going on, have a schedule, have lists, categories. Like I want to know everything that's going on, when it's going to happen. Like I need to know. I'm very like type A. So, and that's how I've been even as a child. My ducks are always lined in a row. I've always did things with, mythology. And so that all changed when I had kids. When you have children, nothing is like that. And it kind of forced me to change. So in the beginning, I kind of feel like, I wanted things to be a certain way. I wanted to have this first, and, I wanted things to line up. I think what happens is, this is one of those things where there is no right time. You kind of have to make the time, or you kind of have to just start it. It's like a business. You can't just wait until you have X amount of money in the bank and you pay for this first, and then it's this, and then it's that. I wish things were cushiony like that, but it's not. And it's one of those things where you kind of have to just start and you have to just roll with it. So a lot of people ask me all the time, especially since the birth of my second daughter, before the show even aired, everyone kept asking me, how are you doing it? How are you being a wife and this mom? You have this bakery and your kids are here, you're balancing everything. And I'm like, this is your perspective. My perspective, I'm not. So it's like, it's okay. I think a lot of people have this idea or ideology of how things should look and how they should be. And then we're also caught up on social media and how we are portrayed and how we're supposed to look. And I kind of feel like you can't. This is so unobtainable and it's unhealthy. And so for me, I embraced the mistakes. So it was like, okay, I did this didn't work out. Let's try again. Like with my husband, I kind of feel that I didn't really notice or understand how important spousal support was until honestly I did the show with the competition, because I didn't want to do it in the beginning. It was my husband that convinced me to do it. And I'm just so lucky that there's someone who's there to cheer you on, who's your support system, and who wants to see you succeed. Because sometimes you have these ideas. If you tell certain people, they'll just tell you not to do it, or they'll give you every reason not to do it, or they'll turn it down, or they'll be negative. And it's like a support system is extremely crucial. You need someone who actually wants, who's on your side and wants you to succeed. And that's hard to find because people have facades, you know? So, yeah, I think for me, it wasn't necessarily, I didn't plan any of this. Things kind of happened, like the bakery. I didn't plan to be in Little Falls. Little Falls found me, you know. I was pregnant with my second. We wanted a bigger home. And when you're self-employed, it's really hard to own. And so it was either get a bigger home or find our next move for our business. And at the time, we didn't have a storefront. We were doing everything from a rented kitchen space, and we would just outsource because we were only wholesalers. We didn't have a retail store at all. But this was starting to get old. The place we were working at, it was starting to get a little bit more hectic to be there because we were starting to expand. And it was like, okay, either we get a bigger home or we get a bakery storefront. Well, getting the bigger home was much harder than we anticipated. So we ended up finding this vacant location in Little Falls. And it was already a bakery before we were here. So there was no construction that was needed. Everything was just like perfect timing because it was a pandemic, but at the same time, it was a pandemic. But you have to understand at that time, it was either do this or lose it all. Because we were down to like the thread, you know, we
Yeah.
had to do something. Everyone was hemorrhaging left and right, obviously during the pandemic, and so we just had to give this last, you know, jump to see like if we don't do this, we're literally gonna lose everything we ever built. So we have to figure it out. And so we ended up getting a storefront, and it was shaky. The first year was shaky, to say the least. But I think the competition definitely helped to get the word out there because sometimes it just takes that exposure, because you can have the greatest products ever, but no one's going to know if they don't know you exist. So I think, you know, part of that helps with the exposure. It can not even just the Food Network, but just like people sharing, you know, just getting out there, social media. Like sometimes some of these things can help you, but it's like that exposure is really hard to get. But yeah, it's not something that can be super planned out. I feel like there were a lot of things that we just had to just roll with the punches as they went, you know, like this would happen, this, you know, an issue would arise, or we got, you know, an opportunity comes. So what do we do? So it's just a lot of these things you kind of just have to just adapt as they come to you. A lot of these things were not planned out for me. And I'm type A, you know, and a lot of these things were not planned out. They came and I had to just deal with them as they came.
Yeah, I so appreciate you sharing that about yourself and that like personal evolution that you had to go on. And I guess
Yeah.
as a fellow mother, I can relate and empathize that, you know, kids pushed you into that space. You know, you know, that they definitely challenge us to be different, whether or not we
Yes.
want to, just because, you know, it's not all about us anymore, you know, for sure.
Yes.
Um, but I appreciate you sharing that personal shift and then the need for adaptability, you know, for, you know, success, because I do think that, you know, by very nature of the words business plan, right? You know, is part of the training to start a business.
Yes.
Sounds like there's something fixed, you know, in that.
Right.
And as you're sharing, you know, there was a lot of moving parts and opportunities that you had to like grab without, not that there wasn't thought put in, but there
Of
was
course.
fast moves, you know, that you had to make that were not necessarily part of the plan.
Yeah.
So I can respect that, and it's good for our viewers to hear, and our entrepreneurs, you know, to really kind of embrace that as well. So obviously, you touched on it, and I know it's such a big part of your current story. You know how you know you opened this business storefront in the pandemic, which was the craziest time ever, and at that point in November of 2020, people still were a little fearful about getting food
Oh,
from the
yes.
outside. It
Yeah.
wasn't like now, you know, at some point we evolved to like, you know, everyone ordering it and picking it up on, you know,
Right.
on the streets. But at that point, you know, you were still, you know, early in that. But marketing, you know, was key. So tell us how the whole Food Network opportunity kind of came to you, evolved, and then I mean, it's funny, we had another fangirl of moments of mine. We pulled on the Montclair Brewery folks as well, and they were, recently involved in a one of these types of shows
Oh,
also.
cool.
So I it's amazing, what it all involves.
Right.
So can you tell us a little bit about how you came to that opportunity and then what
Yeah.
that ride was like?
So this was last summer. The I got a DM in our business Instagram account. And at first, I thought it was a scam. Someone reached out. It was a random person. It wasn't like a production. It was a random person that reached out, and they were like, "Oh, we wanted to know if you wanted to be on the Spring Baking Championship on the Food Network. It's a competition about blah 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 blah." And I just thought it was a scam. Because I was like, why would somebody reach out to me in the DM? It's kind of felt was not really official. So I ignored it. And then, a week or so goes by, and then I'm getting, emails and voicemails, missed calls. And I'm like, okay, it's from the same person. So I'm like, this is weird. So I called them back to see if it was legitimate. And then I realized it was a recruiting company that contacted me. And that's why I thought it was not legitimate. But okay, this must be legitimate. So once they approached me and it was real, I went to my husband, I showed him the DM and I laughed. And I was like, look at this. They want me to do this competition. Ha ha ha. And he was like, ha ha, what's so funny? Like, why not? Why wouldn't you want to do it? And I'm looking at my daughter, she's 8 weeks old. And I'm like, okay, like I'm in the middle of maternity leave. I'm not even back in the store yet. I haven't baked in I don't know how long. What are we gonna do with the babies, the kids, the bakery? At the time, we had no staff in the store. The store was new. It was not even 9 months old. So we had no staff. It was just us two. I just had a baby. We're both in the bakery. All the kids are in the bakery. Like, it's an insane time. And like, how am I now going to throw in a show or a competition on top of that? Like, I don't think it's feasible. So that's why I was laughing. So then he looked at me, he saw me, my head was spiraling because I'm very type A. And he looked at me and he was like, can I just ask you one question? And after that, we'll figure everything out. Like, we'll go from there. And I said, okay. He was like, besides the store, besides the kids, besides all the obstacles that you see, if it was the perfect world, would you want to go on the Food Network and do a competition like that? And I said, yeah, I think it would be great. He goes, yeah, we'll figure it out. Like, that's it. All I want to know is that you want to do it. If you want to do it, we're going to do it. And I was like, but how are you going to figure it out? So it took him, honestly, and his support to show me that you can do this. Don't worry about the logistics. We'll get there. But if you want to do it, you should do it. So, after that, I responded to the guy. I said I wanted to do it, went through the whole interviewing process. But from the time that day was until I actually got on the flight, it was 3 weeks. So my daughter was 11 weeks old when I was on the show, and I had to figure out who was watching the kids, pumping, who was taking care of the store, who was going to help him. I had to figure out everything for me to be gone for X amount of time to even be there. It was a lot to figure out in such a small amount of time. But yeah, it all started with a DM.
That is an amazing story. And we've, as I said, been in touch with a few folks, and it does seem to be that's how it is, that kind of like
Yeah.
intermediary company that you're like, this is spam, or this is not
Yeah.
real, and you're very close to discounting it, and yet it was the real deal. So that's amazing. And kudos for moving mountains, to make it happen.
Yeah, that was that
And
like honestly, that was a huge effort. It was not just me, it was a family effort. I called in all my chips to figure out how I could somehow get on to this competition. Like, my mom was the one that ended up watching my kids, but thanks to COVID, she was working from home and going to school from home because of COVID. There weren't any in-person,
yeah,
classes. But the thing is, she was going to school full time and she was working full time. So I looked at my mom and I was like, Mom, like, how are you gonna juggle two kids and one's a newborn on top of that? Of course, my mom is like, Jaleesa, I've had two kids before. You don't know how to. I'm like, okay, Mom, I'm sorry. Like,
thanks, mom.
right. But she was like, no, I promise you, I got it. It'll be fine. Like, I'll have the babies. It'll be fine. Okay. Like, so she watched the kids. My husband worked tirelessly in the store. He did all the deliveries himself. Like, it was an insane time. One of my friends, she ended up coming to the store and helping him out, like working the front, the customers, things like that, while he ended up baking and doing a delivery. So that helped us out. But it was a huge effort. It was not just me. I could not have done it without my family. So thankfully for that, I was able to go on to the competition and do that. But to have to figure all that out and have everyone stop their lives, kind of figure this out and throw this curveball in was hard. But I think once they
Yeah.
realized, like, oh, it's for this competition of food network, let me try to help her. Like, it's a big deal. Like, I want to get her out there.
Hmm.
Like, it's a big opportunity. So everyone, of course, wanted to help. But it was just hard because a lot of my friends and family, they're still in New York. And so obviously they couldn't, even though they wanted to, they just couldn't because
They
they're
were
too
close
far.
by.
Yeah, and my mom, luckily, she had just moved to New Jersey, so she was in New Jersey, but and she ended up moving into my house because it was just easier because I was gonna be gone for a significant amount of time. So she just moved into my house temporarily for that, and then she helped watch the kids, but it was an effort,
Well, it
huge
sounds
effort.
so. What came from the experience? Like what I mean, what did you get from it? What was your takeaways from it?
I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about how I am under pressure. I learned a lot about the skills that I didn't know I really had or that were significant. I feel like one of the things that was really prevalent on TV were things that I made, like the taste. Like everyone just the judges always went crazy for how things tasted. And they just were always floored every single time. So I didn't realize that, oh, this is a strength. So I didn't, that was big for me, thinking that I was able to figure out flavors and pair them on the spot. There are a lot of things I never tried before or even made before, flavor wise and just technique wise, that I haven't tried before, that I was just doing for the first time, and it was actually working. And I realized, like, wow, okay, you do know what you're doing. Like, it's gonna be okay, because I honestly went on the show not all that confident. I kind of went there thinking that I was not set up to succeed. Like, I feel like it was not conducive for me because I hadn't baked in over 6 months. I was in the middle of maternity leave. I was pumping the whole time. I was very, very rusty. My time management was going to be really poor. I just kind of felt like I had a lot of things going against me. I had this new baby. So I just kind of felt like, it's going to be a lot harder, I felt. And I just thought I wasn't going to win. So every single day that I was there felt like a blessing. It was like, oh my God, another day. Like, whoa. So I was
Hmm.
just always so grateful every day that I was able to continue on. I think maybe being so humble kind of helps. But yeah, I learned a lot about that. And I learned a lot about how to take constructive criticism, because that was a big
Hmm.
deal. Sometimes it's hard because what we do is very passionate. And so to have someone critique it, it's really easy to mistake what they're saying as it being personal. When they when they critique what you made. And it's like, I figured out and I've learned to really take what they're saying and to adapt from it. So if they would say, okay, this is too tart for me or something, like I would figure out, okay, well, they don't like this judge likes that. Well, these two don't like this. It was like trying to figure out, how
Yeah.
to adapt. But I learned that I could do that. And I was learning how to adapt recipes on the spot and how to do, things in my head. So I learned that I could do that. So, I did learn quite a bit. I made lots of friendships while there with the contestants. So that was fun. But yeah, definitely. I learned a lot when I was there.
Well, I appreciate you sharing all that too. Again, that personal insight it just does remind us that we are a work in progress, and that it is good to push yourself sometimes to have different experiences, because it does
Yes.
help you evolve as a person, and then that ripples into all the other places and spaces in your life, like your business.
Hmm.
So, as always does happen, the time flies and goes very quickly, when we're chatting together. And I do like that we should have follow-up episodes with so many of the guests,
All
as
right.
I'm gonna say now. But I'd be remiss, leaving each other. And obviously you're and I know this because we had, I shared with you, Chef Kim on, who was a part of our YWTV Share the Mic Now family as well, and shared her story. You personally have forged, you shared a lot about your story, about how you got there, and what it took for you personally. But you're also in a space, and have where there are not a lot of women, and not a lot of Black women that
Yeah.
are where you are. Um, you know, what has that experience been like for you, and how does that kind of fold into the batter? Another, sorry, pun from
I
the
I didn't really notice that until culinary school.
yeah.
Because where I grew up is predominantly Black, Hispanic, minorities. So I'm used to seeing like people who look like me everywhere. It wasn't so much a culinary school when I realized it was a very small section or a percentage of Black women in particular, whether it was culinary arts or baking. And then I entered the job market and I realized the same thing. A lot of the employers that I had, not a single one of them was a Black woman. So, and I started to question that too. Like, I wonder why, it's a small percentage of that. I wonder if it's just because not many of us are going into this industry, we dispersed someplace else. But, I'm not exactly sure why. I don't see a lot of Black female chefs or even Black female
Mm-hmm.
bosses that I've had in the past. But I mean, I've had Black teachers. Like I've seen us obviously in the professional field, but I'm not sure why I don't see that many of us in the industry. It's a shame, and even for workers, I'm not seeing a lot of Black applicants. I have right now, I'm hiring in my bakery, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't see any Black applicants applying. So not that I'm looking, so I'm sort of
Right.
looking for them. But it's just like I'm just noticing that I don't see anyone applying. So, I can't seem to pinpoint why. I wonder what that's about. Because it's not like, I won't hire anyone as Black. It's not the case. So I'm not exactly sure why, but I did
Yeah.
notice that. I noticed the start of that when I was in culinary school, that I didn't see many Black people, even Black women on campus. If there were Black people, there were more men than women, which I thought
Right.
was weird. But yeah, I don't know why.
Yeah. Well, I think, what's great is that you are putting, we know this with our work with young girls, kind of going back to kind of finishing, I guess, where we started is that, until you see someone that looks like you don't always feel like that this is a place for you. So I really appreciate that you creating this space for, for women, for women of color, for Black women in particular, for girls, that this is a place that, you belong, and that you can have success and have mentors and heroes inspire you like we do with the great work that you're doing. And I really have to ask one more thing
Of
before we leave
course.
each other. What's your favorite? I mean, I was about to think, what was I going to tell you? My favorite thing that I eat in your bakery is, and I don't know that I could tell. I mean, I love the eclairs. You've got some pretty banging eclairs and like
Thank
different, like
you. That was
really
our whole spiel.
I was going to say really interesting, kind of riffs on the basic. But what's your favorite? What's your favorite thing that you make?
Okay, this is gonna sound so bad, but I have to be honest. So my favorite thing in the bakery is our Oreo brownie. And I say that sounds bad just because we are known for having these eclectic French eclairs.
Yeah,
And not that I don't like the eclairs. My favorite eclair is the Oreo eclair. Obviously, I like Oreos. So
I see
the
the theme.
Oreo
I see the
eclair
theme.
is
Yeah.
my favorite. The reason why I like the brownie is because that brownie personally took me a year to finalize. My favorite dessert to eat, hands down, is a brownie. I love a brownie sundae. It's my favorite dessert. So if I can have a
Mm.
warm brownie with a scoop of cold ice cream, some hot fudge sauce, I'm the happiest person in the world. So this brownie in my store is exactly made for that. If you take this brownie, warm it back up at home with some ice cream, like toes are curling, pop a movie in. Favorite thing to eat is definitely my brownie in the bakery. I love it. I love it so much. It's so fudgy and chocolatey and soft, and it's amazing.
Well, folks, I encourage you to be following Mo and Jay Pastry Shop on Instagram, following them on all their social media channels. We've got the links here so you can get to them from their website. You could do ordering right there. You could see great pictures. I know you've got the one cake that's your husband's favorite, right? Isn't there, is it
The hubby cake that
the
won the
hubby cake?
show, the won the competition. Yes, it's here in the store
Yeah.
by the slice. We also have it for shipping. We ship it in cute little mason jars, and we ship them out nationwide, so anyone can now taste the winning cake from the Food Network.
Yep, yep. So I knew that was the big winner. I told you I'm a
Yeah,
fangirl. So
I
so
can't wait
look,
to see you
folks.
again.
I feel a responsibility to show up in the next like day or two and say hello in person and fill my belly. But I'm so grateful that you could make the time. Obviously, you're juggling a lot with all the different roles. But I appreciate you sharing the realities of your world and your evolution to this point, and so excited to keep watching and see where you go and taste where you go as you evolve also, because I know that we get to get exposed to that way as well. And I likely will be tapping on your shoulder again to talk to girls and talk to women and business
Yeah, we have to have
owners,
another episode.
Yeah, so I feel more opportunities to talk.
Yeah.
So everyone, please check out. You will not be sorry, whether you can get there in person or whether you can, send something directly to your home. You will not be sorry. Taking a try for sure. I'm sure, beginning of a very long, beautiful, tasty relationship, and definitely keep close on social media. Get beautiful glimpses of the children, your life, and the bakery as it evolves with you. So I so appreciate the window that you let us into your life. So
Yes,
thank you so much. Thank you.
yes, thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
And for our viewers, we'll see you again next week. But until then, please stay connected to the YW. So many important programs happening, including we are obviously in camp season. So lots of great opportunities for your kids. And for our business owners, exactly like what we talked about today, you can join our Eureka program, which is no charge for all women. And we very specifically encourage non-white women to be joining. It's important for us to help you start and keep your small businesses strong. It's a wonderful community, online community, virtual community with lots of great classes and courses that you can take, and opportunity to access coaches at no charge to help you with your business. And for those of you that are attorneys, please join me and some very esteemed panelists to be part of our Creating Safe Places and Work in New Jersey Politics. And we will be doing that on July 12th from 10 to 11:30 with the New Jersey State Bar Foundation. Some amazing attorneys talking about the video that we recently produced to help folks that are working in political environments understand about how to be safe from sexual harassment and sexual assault. And, so important because we definitely want more people who look like the two of us in office. And we don't want them to be scared away from being part of the political scene because of what we know is, been documented to be happening behind the scenes. And with that, I also want to make sure that I lift up before we leave each other that all year long, the YW is very proud to be partnering with the Flow Initiative and Project Local Access to give free period care packages to anyone in need. You just have to call. We'll have the phone number in the comments here for you. There is no charge. You will get a 30-day supply of period products for you or for a family member that could be in need. So please, reach out for access to that program as well. Everyone have a great day. And I get in the car and go get an eclair. So bye.